My name is Dan Hyder. Marilyn Mascaro and I are the coordinators for the honors program here at Roane State. And every semester we send out about 600 letters, 700 letters to students here at Roane State who qualify for admission into the honors program. And of those 600 or 700 students, we may get 100, 125, 130 that will express an interest in participating in the program and doing projects. And this past year we had over 140 projects that were completed by students here at Roane State. In every division, every campus, we've had a lot of really good participation, and you saw an example of some of those projects today. We have 2 students who are going to do oral presentations tonight, short presentations about their projects. When they are finished, we'll take an opportunity to recognize students who have earned enough honors credits to receive either an honors associate, that's 12 honors credits, or if they have earned 18 honors credits, they'll receive an honors diploma. And we'll recognize those students after we have our oral presentations. Our first oral presentation tonight is from Lisa McDonald. Lisa did a project dealing with recycling at a UT football game for my class, an environmental science class that she took, and she continued to do some additional work related to that activity for another class as well in management. So Lisa's going to speak first.
Way shorter than he is. There we go. Okay. I think what Mr. Hyder meant was that I managed my honors projects, considering that I'm a management student. So let me explain to you a little bit about what I did. This honors project was for Dave Wright's Management 201. So it's basically the basic management principles. They teach you very basic, doing a SWOT analysis and so forth. So there is the model that he presented here, and the project was that there are schools in the SEC, UT is one of them, and they have a program called Game Day Challenge. And if that school decides to do it, then the recycling, they form a recycling team. Our team was called the Dream Team, and basically what they do is whoever can get the most post-consumable recyclable goods. So I went at it from 2 points. I went from one for environmental science and wrote a paper on the environmental impact of the recycling, but also went about it from a management standpoint, doing an analysis on the management analysis of the group. So I'm just going to go through just a little bit of it. Let me turn this on first, is what I'm going to do. So it's a management analysis of the game day recycling competition through the SEC. And here's just a few links about it. Jay Price is the coordinator at the UT. It was done on a UT home football game on October 29th, and it's just you choose one game, as like I said before, to do the competition. So this is the mission statement, and I'm not going to attempt to totally analyze and say that I don't think everything was great, but from a management standpoint, your mission statement should be what everyone can get on board with and focus with. And I did think that their management statement is a little long for everyone to memorize and to get behind, but this is their mission statement, and it's offer support and services recycling, compost waste, and it kind of goes through, and he talks about specific everywhere they're going to do it, which I thought was a little long and wordy, but this is UT's overall mission for their recycling team. I've got their vision statement, and again, a little long, a little lengthy for that, but good intentions on that, just basically to ensure that everything is collected and processed. UT does get money back, as I'm sure most schools do when they recycle materials. So per game, there's about 30 to 40 volunteers. There's 8 home games, and that's an average of about 80 tons per season. That's a pretty small amount of recycling. I'm sure everybody's been to a football game. There's a lot of people. That's a very small amount. And the game day competition goal for this, our goal for this, there's a 2-day event, was 18 tons, and that would be 50% of the fans' waste. This is the management model that Dave Rath uses. I think he mostly pulled in from different areas, and this is what the major of the class is taught around. And the management model, it looks a little confusing, but when you start at the top with the planning, and then you go to the organizing, there's a little pointer here. So you go to the planning, and then the organizing, and then leading, directing, and controlling. So starting at the top, when you are going to just kind of manage in general, Planning goes by setting your objectives, seeing how you're going to accomplish those objectives. Then you have all kinds of outside factors, environmental wise. You have to look into the legalities and the politics of it. Your economic factors, these are all the items in red, technology, competition. So there's some different external factors going on. But then you have to organize people by arranging your people, your resources to see how you're going to work towards that goal. Finally, at the very bottom, while you're managing a project, you have to inspire people, guide and lead their efforts, and then lastly, come back to your control process. Did you accomplish the goals that you had decided? And if not, let's start over, let's reevaluate, reassess where we need to go, change all over again, maybe go back to the planning stage, and it's a continual process anytime you're doing a management project. So that's just basically what I explained to you right there about the planning, organizing, leading, directing, and controlling. So this, I've just got a few little slides here. I won't read all of them to you, but this is part of this. Game day is a huge point. It's one of the cornerstones of the recycling program at UT. They did work with sponsors, radio, TVs, and ads, and so forth. This is a diagram. You can kind of see the stadium off in yellow to the right, and then everything around that that's color-coded is where we sat down and decided where we were going to set up our recycling boxes. Whether we're going to hit the sororities, the frat houses, you know, new places that maybe would bring us our most recycling efforts around the game time and tailgating. The man to the right is Jay Price, and then in the truck are a couple of volunteers that he has from AmeriCorps. That's the center of his volunteering. And this is us loading up our boxes. Yes, I did get my husband to help me. That's him there. So we had to meet, load up all of our boxes for our thing here. And this is my husband and I, and this is the boxes that we set up, and we put little liners in them and set them. You've probably seen them if you've been to the game. You've seen those and go, oh, somebody actually had to set those up. And they have to clean them up, and they have to break them back down. So it was kind of a big effort to do that. So here is a SWOT analysis, something typically you do in a management class. When we evaluate our strengths and our weaknesses and your opportunities and your threats of anything that's going on. Internal talks about the strengths and weaknesses, and external are things that might affect your project from being pulled off in the best way. And UT has a lot of strengths. I mean, they have name recognition sponsors. You hear their ads all the time. Eastman Recycling Company and Coca-Cola. They've got these great big names. They've got some great emotionally involved participants. Those that are recycling are extremely excited about it. AmeriCorps is on staff full-time with them to help them. They have no overhead and no debt. So that is a huge strength to their recycling program. They do have some weaknesses. Again, these are all internal factors of the program. Like, they have no staff. It's based all upon volunteers. When you have volunteers, you have some issues there. They have absolutely no budget whatsoever to their recycling efforts. Everything is begged for or borrowed, and they have to share their manpower and their equipment with facilities. So there's a lot of coordination going on in order to knock off this to go. They have some opportunities to increase their recycling service. They hope to get the public to want to recycle more. They are currently not doing anything in the skyboxes, so anybody that's ever been to the skyboxes knows the amount of waste is huge there. So that's not an area that yet they're into the recycling. And they also have other sports and campus events that they've not yet tagged to start doing recycling there either. Some threats is obviously have to get the public willing to recycle and actually put it in the box. That is a threat to recycling program. You got to get them on board. Obviously, there is no budget. Budget's a concern that's huge. And competition with waste management is kind of interesting. They have trash bins and they have recycling bins, and it's two totally different departments. So it's kind of interesting. Like, trash people don't touch recycle people don't touch trash, and it was kind of like, I can't touch your trash, and can I borrow a bag? No, that's ours. And it was kind of, it's not a coordinated effort. So it was kind of an interesting, it was a little frustrating, and he got a little frustrated. So it was kind of interesting to see how he directed and controlled this a little bit. Just have some more pictures here of Jay, and this is him with directing and inspiring his teams and our planning. Then we set up, if you've ever done the tailgating, right before you go into the arena, they have the big area that's set up, and you can go and win all the prizes and jump on all the little things. So we had a booth set up about recycling, and we played some games, we gave away some prizes, and I've got some pictures here of that. This is some of the games that we played with the kids about and taught them about recycling and recycling efforts and how they could be good sports by recycling. And we gave away Frisbees and pins and t-shirts. We gave away all kinds of really fun stuff and tried to encourage people to recycle. UT's recycling has a lot of long-term goals, which is great for an organization to have, which is they want to eliminate all styrofoam. There's a huge amount of styrofoam on UT campus, which is very difficult to recycle. And they are also not composting any waste from the dining halls. And there's a lot of kids on campus, so there's a lot of food. So right now it's not being recycled. So that was one of his two biggest things that he wanted to do. So in looking at management of an organization, you have to decide if it's very flat or very tall, and that just basically means how much does it take to get to the very top. And in their specific structure, it's considered to be very flat, where they have a superintendent of building services at the top, and then our environmental coordinator, and then here we just have some drivers and volunteers. So it's a very flat, meaning you can get to the management, you can get to the top people very quickly to get some help. Again, we have back to our model, just gonna bring that all back together. And then the control, at the end, we sat down and we discussed what maybe didn't go so well and what maybe we needed to change and refocus to make it go a little faster, to make it go a little better. We had a really hard time getting in and out of the stadium. That was very hard with hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of fans. Getting in and out of those stadiums and refilling those boxes was something that they're gonna work on focusing. One of the major changes that they did is they used to just put cardboard boxes out. Then they decided, hey, let's put a plastic liner in there. So just little things like that was in part of the control process. They changed, maybe if you went to the games years ago, you saw those little metal bins and they had like the paper, they had just like the liners in them. Now they've moved to these cardboard boxes. So that's part of the control process, is deciding what do we need to change to make our process go a little better and a little faster. So then we're gonna go back in. Definitely more volunteers is always helpful. Our final results for game day. UT did not win, but we did still really well. Competition goal was 18 tons, and total we recycled 12.54. So we're pretty happy with that. Our best recycling to date was 11.88. So it's pretty high. It definitely beat the best time that Dream Team had ever done. So we were very happy about that. All right, does anybody have any questions over the whole project in general? All at once. Okay, well, thank you guys very much.
I've got one question. Do you want to do it again? Would you do it again?
Oh, absolutely. Oh, it was very fun. It was very fun.
Heather Vandergriff is going to do an oral presentation. She's going to look at the connection between Harry Potter and the British world. This is a project she did under the direction of Dr. Peggy Hilliard.
Welcome to all of my fellow muggles out there. Thank you all for coming. As he said, my name is Heather, and I am a student of literature. I'm a student of both American literature and British literature with Dr. Peggy Hilliard. And I'm here to talk to you today about Harry Potter. Now, J.K. Rowling's Harry Potter series is one of the most well-known series in the world. If you haven't read it yet, I highly suggest that you do. It's worth the read. Marketed as a children's series, primarily, it actually deals with some pretty heavy issues that you wouldn't expect a children's series to deal with. And many of you may be out there asking, you know, what the real world could possibly have in common with a fictional story about a little wizard. You know, what does the real world have in common with Harry Potter? And well, that's why I'm here this evening. I'm going to try to attempt to explain that. So, wands ready? Let's unlock the connection between Harry Potter and the British world. Now, there are many topics that I'm actually in the process of covering for a much longer paper that I'm going to do, but tonight I thought I would just kind of hit the high points, beginning with the British governing body versus the wizarding government. And then here we have a picture of Parliament at night. It's quite lovely. And that is actually a picture, if nobody's seen the movies, of the atrium of the Ministry of Magic, where Harry has to go for a trial in the Order of the Phoenix. Again, read the books, watch the movies. Now, there are governing bodies in both worlds, both British and for the wizarding world. In Anglo-Saxon England, there were many different kings. England was not unified at all. So there were all these different petty kings, if you will, and they would have petty kingdoms. Now, these kings would hold Witenagemets, which is Old English for the meeting of wise men. Now, this would be an advisory council that they would pull together. It had no political power. It was not any kind of governing body. It was really more to just advise the kings. It could be noblemen, it was clergymen, and thanes, which are something similar to knights, if you don't know. But they had, like I said, they had no political power, and as England became more unified and their government grew stronger, they eventually were pushed aside and made way for what is now modern Parliament. Likewise, the wizarding government convenes what they call Wizengamets. While the name sounds really, really similar, and I can only speculate that Wizengamet would mean a meeting of wizards, they're very different entities entirely. The Wizengamet is actually the governing body of the magical world. It passes laws, it holds trials, it handles basically any business that the wizarding world wants to bring to it. It is the primary legislative, judicial, and executive branch of the wizarding government, and it is actually, according to their lore, still active today. It has stood the test of time. Now, in Britain, there is a prime minister, and he is backed by his or her political party. They are the leaders of the cabinet, and they lead parliament in decision making. In essence, the prime minister is the face and the voice of the crown. They are the public persona that the crown puts forth. And they operate under checks and balances just as the US government does. Now, in wizarding society, they have a minister of magic. And of course, the minister of magic is the leader of the Ministry of Magic. That's the wizarding world's government organization. And they operate under no checks or no balances, which is always dangerous in a government if they have no way to regulate who's in charge, because it can lead to creating tyrannies or, all the goodness that comes along with that. Now, however, much like Muggle politics, public opinion holds the ultimate sway, and the minister can be removed if the public wishes it, which is exactly what happened in Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince. The current minister becomes very unpopular and gets ousted, if you will, because the public opinion, the tide turns on him. So the one person that he does have to answer to is the public that he has to deal with. Now we're going to move into the World War II and the Second Wizarding War. And I will say this, racism is actually a very important theme that's very present. It's throughout the entire series, and it's much like it is in everyday life for all of us. It's there, it's ugly, we deal with it, but it is there. And some of the worst racial atrocities took place during World War II. And here is a brief description that I would like you all to consider. An army of zealous followers controlled by a terrible dictator, bent on creating a master race with pure blood, while united beneath a symbol, seeking to exterminate anybody whose blood wasn't clean. Of course, I'm referring to the Nazi soldiers, led by Hitler, under the swastika, seeking to destroy the Jewish race. No one would deny that. Or am I referring to the Death Eaters, led by Voldemort, under the Dark Mark, seeking to destroy Muggles and Mudbloods? The comparison is truly that plain. It's that bold, and she puts it right out there. The Nazi Party was a fascist totalitarian political party, and it was headed by Adolf Hitler. With support of the party, he gained his power. He did not come into power and then the party followed him. He was a part of the party, and they rose together in power. Now, the party believed in what is called a totalizing and reflexive political myth. That basically boils down to the idea that all events that have ever happened, past, present, future, they involve two components. They involve us, and they involve them. And of course, we are always the good guys. We are morally accurate, and we are historically accurate. Everything we do is perfect and right. They are evil, they are corrupt, and they are anachronistic. They don't get their history right. For the Nazi Party, we, or us, was the party itself, and them referred to the Jews, the gypsies, the homosexuals, all of the undesirables that they were having killed. The Nazis also utilized anti-Semitic propaganda to strengthen their cause. They put out posters and flyers and things to tell you what to do if you knew where a Jewish family was, how to turn them in, things of that nature. The Death Eaters are actually more like an army led by Voldemort. They follow him. He came to power, and they followed behind him. But they also believe in the totalizing and reflexive myth. Only for them, us and we are pure-blood wizards, and them are Muggles and Muggleborns, or as they use the impolite word, mudbloods. The Death Eaters also use propaganda, including printing pamphlets with titles like Mudblood and the dangers they pose to a peaceful pure-blood society. They eventually rose to power and were able to start teaching classes at Hogwarts, where they would talk about how people like you and me, compared to them, we're no better than animals. So they used their propaganda to perpetuate the idea that being a pure-blood wizard was better than anything else. And of course, both groups are decidedly racist in their ideology. Adolf Hitler was born to a two-parent home, his father Alois and his mother Clara. He was born on April 20th, 1889, and during his early years, his family they moved around very frequently, and they finally settled down in a small German town. And finally, when he got to live a settled, normal life, his younger brother Edmund had died from the measles. And that was on February 2nd, 1900, when Adolf was 11. And that changed they say it changed his whole personality. He became morose and silent, whereas he used to be outgoing, confident. His grades failed in school. He began to cling more to his mother. He loved his mother very much. He had always had a rocky relationship with his father, but now he began to just fight him constantly. He would fight his teachers and his father both. But like I said, their relationship had always been turbulent, especially since, his father beat him as a form of discipline. Adolf desperately wanted to be an artist, but his father was adamant that he become a civil servant, as he had been. And after his father's death, Adolf actually applied to art school on 2 separate occasions and was denied admission both times. The school told him he had no aptitude for art and that he couldn't do it. And of course, you all know he went on to become the leader of the Third Reich. Now, Lord Voldemort was born as Tom Marvolo Riddle. He was raised in an orphanage as his mother had died while she was giving birth to him. So he grew up with no parents, whereas Adolf Hitler actually had the 2-parent home. His father was a Muggle, also named Tom Riddle, and he had actually abandoned Voldemort's mother while she was still pregnant. And as Voldemort grew up, he goes through all the things that a child with no parents would go through, and he ends up just despising both of his parents. He hated his mother because she actually had the nerve. She was a witch, and she had the nerve to succumb to death and not do anything about it, even though she was a witch. And his father he hated just simply because he wasn't a wizard. He was a Muggle. He was normal like you and me. In fact, when Voldemort left school, I believe he killed his father's entire family, including his father. And he absolutely loved Hogwarts. He loved everything about going to Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. And so once, right after he got out of school, he was 18 years old, he applied for a job to teach there and was turned down. And then a few years later, he applied again and was turned down again. And of course, he goes on to be the chief Death Eater. Now, this is all about being united under particular symbols. The swastika was the symbol under which the Nazi Party was united. When Hitler was a young boy, he went to a Catholic school in an 11th century Benedictine cloister, and it featured engravings and crests on the walls that were emblazoned all over with swastikas. Because originally the swastika actually stood for love, peace, and friendship. But now the swastika only evokes strong negative emotions. There are some people I know that can't even look at one. And the dark mark is very similar in the wizarding world. It was the symbol under which the Death Eaters united. It too evokes powerful negative emotions. It was conjured at the Quidditch World Cup, and people were angry, they were frightened, they were upset. And the Death Eaters, they actually wear it branded on the inside of their left forearm as a symbol that they follow Lord Voldemort. He himself actually designed the insignia, and it never had any other meaning. It always just meant I am a follower of Lord Voldemort. Now we get to what I think is the importance of Harry Potter. Why exactly is Harry Potter so important, and what makes it a good work of literature? Now I'll tell you, while I was working on this project, my grandmother, who wanted to be here tonight and unfortunately couldn't make it, she would call me in the evening and ask me if I was spending time with Harry. And the more I thought about it, the more I realized that is exactly what I was doing. I have read these stories so many times. I've watched the films over and over again as well. Like I was saying before, I'm kind of a Potter nerd. And like I said, you could call me a fan. I feel like Harry Potter's story and his life, they can teach people lessons about their own lives. And Harry Potter teaches us that when something is happening in the world and it's wrong, people can stand against it and fight to change it. Even an underdog can win if they fight hard enough. Also, we learn about the value of remaining united. In the face of adversity, the value of remaining united, standing together, makes more of a difference. You can make more of a difference if you unite than if you stand alone. Even simpler than that, having friends and loved ones, people you care for, anybody that you care for, along for the ride can make it a little bit, just make it a little bit less bumpy. It doesn't matter if you fight hard and lose, if you have your friends and your family and your loved ones with you. In the end, it just makes the ride worth taking. So, I want to thank you all for listening, and I hope that I have helped unlock the link between Harry's world and our own. Once again, get out there and read the books. And I will say good night and mischief managed.
As I say, I hope you had a chance to see all of the exhibits that were given today. And we want to just recognize those students who did participate, who did present a project either on the table or gave an oral presentation here in the front. We want to give them a certificate and a pen. So as we call your name, would you come and stand? And we'll recognize all of them at the very end. Cameron Watson. Loretta Starnes. Is Loretta still here? Okay. Miranda McCabe. Miranda's not here. Robin Abernathy. Heather Vandergriff. Lisa McDonald. Georgette Boozer. Sarah Burgess. And Tara Poole. Please just give a hand for everybody who participated in the banquet performance. Thank you very much. We also want to recognize those students who have earned enough honors credits to receive either an honors associate or an honors diploma. These are students who are graduating this semester in the summer who have earned such a designation. We'd like to recognize them with a certificate and with a medallion as well. So as I call your name, if you would, please come forward. Sarah Burgess. And some may not be here tonight, but I'm going to call the name just to recognize them, and on the off chance that they might be here, even if I don't think they are. Treva Courier. Catherine Evans. Ashland Everett. Wendy Foster, Nancy Hubner, Catherine Moore, Christina Scarborough, Loretta Starnes, Tanya White, Cassandra DeJarnette, Stephanie McCollum, Carrie Ramsey, Cameron Watson, Trevor Watson, and I know Brianna Wright's not here. She had indicated that she hated to miss tonight. Let's give a hand for those who earned those credits too. Marilyn's going to make some closing comments.
Just wanted to thank you briefly for attending, for supporting the honors program, for supporting your honors student, whether you're an instructor or a parent or a husband or wife. I know they appreciate it, and Dan and I do also. Thank you.
I don't have a certificate for you yet. She handed me the contracts today, but she will qualify, so I'll have a certificate for you later. Sorry for that. Good night, everyone.